Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm a victim of narcissistic abuse by my in laws. And after 20 years, I have now officially been 13 months no contact with my in laws, including my husband. I just want to share with everyone that nobody deserves to be disrespected, ignored, um, belittled, treated with no dignity, constantly belittling me and yourself. I'm just referring to myself, but all of this really began whenever I was 15 years old and I met the love of my life, my true soulmate, my husband. My husband was 16. He grew up in the family cult of narcissism and didn't know any different. And when I first met him, I knew there was something extremely different about his family. It was almost an incestual relationship that he had with his mother, including his younger brother. I even went as far as to accuse my husband of having an incestual relationship with his mother because of the oddity of the relationship and the way that she treated me as though I was her enemy. After, I don't know, I guess it was about 19 years of this, we have, of course, went no contact with them many times, but it was the other way around. It was actually his parents going no contact with my husband and involving other family members, of course, in this no contact, all because he would not break up with me. If my husband didn't do what his parents said, they would disown him. They've done it many times. And we waited for 13 years to get married to get their approval. We never could get it. So after 13 years, 3 of those, he had not spoken to his parents, which I'll do another video on why. They stopped talking to him because they made us break up, and then we secretly got back together. It was heart-wrenching, heartbreaking. My dad had just died. I was pretty much homeless. I had my car packed up, getting ready to move with my then boyfriend, now husband, and only 2 days prior to me moving to Ohio, they made him call me on speakerphone and break up with me. I felt abandoned, alone, and I knew for a fact that, his parents made him do that because the love that my husband and I had at that time was astounding. I mean, we had been loyal to each other for so long, and I just could not see any reason why my husband would break up with me, especially because in 2008, the crisis happened with the stock market, and even with a degree, he couldn't get a job. The only job I could get was working at Kroger's, and we were financially struggling and living with my mother. His parents refused to help him financially at that time, refused to help him in general unless he broke up with me. So instead of him folding to his parents' wishes, he went ahead and moved in with me and my mom. And they're very wealthy. They're millionaires. And during that time, they could have reached out and helped both of us. I was a loving, caring person. I've never said anything bad about his parents, even in the face of their narcissistic abuse. My husband used to always tell me, just be quiet. Just ignore my mom, you know how she is, don't take it to heart. But every time we were around his parents, we would leave and I would be crying in the car, or we would bicker about how his mother had treated me and him. Going back to what I was just saying, is that, they had the opportunity and finances to help us at that time, and no means were we looking for a handout. We just needed, somebody to be there for us and say, hey, yes, during this financial crisis, we can help you and Natalie get a job and help y'all get on y'all's feet. But because my husband would not break up with me, they refused to help him. Well, it got so bad that my husband was trying his hardest to stay with me, but he ended up going back to his parents' house because after about 3 years, because of just the finances and how they were, it's kind of like the mouse and the cheese, and they were giving him little crumbs, and he followed the crumbs back to their house, and he got a little waitressing job because at that time his dad said, look, I'm going to get a job in Ohio and I will get you a job with me. And so that's eventually what happened. So he got a job with his dad after 3 years of being unemployed, while I was employed and helping us financially as much as I could on a meager salary of a Kroger. And then I ended up starting my own business helping handicapped children, and we had a little bit more income, but just not enough to live on. So I had my car packed and everything, and waiting to move to Ohio. We're excited. Finally, after 3 years, we're like, oh yes, you got a foot in the door. We're gonna have a paycheck again, a steady paycheck, and I was planning on finding the business I had helping handicapped children in Ohio. Days prior, he broke up with me. Well, his parents ended up going on some vacation, and he called me and he said, hurry up and drive up here. So I drove from Texas to Ohio, and I got there, and we ended up staying at his parents' apartment for 2 days before they got back, just to find a hotel room to live in. And so that's what we did. We lived in a hotel room for about 3 or 4 months. And during that time, his parents, obviously found out that I had moved up there, and his dad took him in the office at work and in front of everybody at the place of employment yelled at him, saying that he's a disgrace to the family, that they're disowning him, that he's going to get him fired from the job he just got hired after 3 years and not having a job, just telling him that I'm trash, that I'm dirt, I come from nobody and I'm a nothing, what she said in the past, by the way. That's another story. But and so what my husband ended up having to do, he came home crying and told me my dad's going to get me fired from the job. We're not going to, we're here in Ohio, we're from Texas, and I'm not going to have a job and all this. So I told my husband, I said, you need to go to the executive of that company and tell the executive what your dad is saying, because at that time his dad was just a private contractor helping in an engineering firm there. So that's what my husband had to do. My husband had to go to the executive, not only embarrass his dad, but embarrass himself by saying, look, my dad and my mom hasn't, like my girlfriends, at that time, I think it was about 10 years, they've disowned me several times, and so my dad said he's going to get me fired, and I'm really needing this job. It's the first break I've had in 3 years, and he had put hundreds of resumes out and hundreds of job interviews and could not get a job for 3 years because of that crisis that happened. And so he went and did that. And so, of course, his dad didn't have the balls, I think it was just a threat, to actually go to the executive and get him fired. And so he ended up keeping that job, but his parents disowned him. So we lived in this rat-infested crackhead motel because it's all we could afford. While we both were working, I restarted my handicap business, and I was taking care of children with special needs, and we were making good income, and he was making an okay income, and we were able to get a house in Ohio. And so we got a house. Sorry, 1 second, my dog. Hey, no, sorry. This is my little handicap dog. He's handicapped himself. Get in here. Come here, Chloe. Sorry about that. Let me shut that so they can't go back out. Sorry about that interruption. So we ended up getting our own house. Well, we ended up deciding to get married soon after, because at that time, I think it was about 2 years had went by. We're living in a house together. We decided to get married for many reasons, just because we had been together at that time for almost 13 years. We waited for 13 years for their approval and never got approval. I never got my dream wedding. He never got his dream wedding. He never got the approval or the acceptance from his family. So we got married through the Justice of Peace, and the lady that I was taking care of, her special needs son, came and was our witness. And it was a small ceremony, but sweet. I cried, he cried. I mean, because waiting after 13 years to get married, it finally happened, and we were just thrilled, over the moon. Sorry, there's a little bit of a glare. I'm trying to get that, but so basically, my husband called out of respect to his parents and told his parents, "Hey, I got married. I'm just letting you know." Well, a few days after that, we got phone calls from 2 or 3 different family members saying that his mother, Sarah, went around crying and screaming that her life was over, that her son married I guess, the devil in disguise, and her life was over, and that if we have children, she'd never see her grandchild, and all this stuff. And righteously so, she should have never seen her grandchild, but we'll get there, because we ended up having a child. We ended up having a kid. And so we had family members calling to congratulate us, telling us, "Hey, congratulations on your wedding. You really deserve it. Y'all have waited so long, but, unfortunately your mom called crying, and this is supposed to be the happiest days of our life." And we have his mom calling and just belittling me, trying to get people on her side. She's very narcissistic. She's just trying to make it seem like I'm the most horrific person in the world, when in reality, it's really the other way around. But I didn't see it until I learned about narcissistic abuse. Well, about 6 months later, we decided to get pregnant because I waited so long for that approval and never got it. So we just went ahead and did it our own way. So we got pregnant the very first time that we tried, and we waited 3 months. And then out of respect, Jared said, "Hey, we want to let you know Natalie's pregnant, and you're going to be grandparents, but we understand you don't want a relationship with us because I'm married to Natalie." So we hung up, and then they called back, actually Skyped us a few days later. They wanted to try to fix everything. So I didn't want that. I was very hurt by the way they had treated me, and I suffered with CPTSD for many years over the neglect and mistreatment that she did. She wouldn't literally make fun of me of my dyslexia that I had, but anytime I wrote anything, or if I said something wrong, if I didn't put a correct punctuation, she would be the first to tell me. She has a degree in English. She used to be an English teacher only for 5 years. She's lived off her husband her whole life, but she's acted like she's done something so grand in her life. Oh, and let's not forget to mention she's a quote-unquote opera singer who throws dinner parties just so people come to her house to hear her sing. Okay, this is the type of person that I'm dealing with. I mean, she literally thinks she is the queen of all queens, the best person in the world. There's no other better person than she is, even though she's never given to charity. She's never done anything that I've done. She doesn't have a heart at all. But getting off the subject, we'll go into that some other time. But so we started building our relationship again with them because the baby was born, and because I didn't grow up with grandparents because of deaths that happened before I was born. I wanted that for my son. I really wanted him to have grandparents. And so I and her, we both started calling each other, trying to fix stuff, even though she was still very narcissistic type attitude. Well, during that time, one of our uncles, Jared's uncle, died. So they went to the funeral for this uncle, and while at the funeral, she went around at somebody's funeral. People are mourning at this funeral because somebody's relative or father or son or whatever died. She went around telling people that she would never see her grandchild, that I was going to take her grandchild from her. And this is while we were fixing our relationship. So we didn't find this out until we went in no contact. We just found this out a few months ago by a cousin. That's her dad. died, you know, and she found it very offensive that, you know, here she is mourning her dad's death, and Sarah's over here complaining about how I'm never going to let her see her grandchild when we were talking. Well, I give birth, and she comes in. I haven't seen them in years at that time. I was so hurt. I just gave birth. Of course, they're the first person in my birthing room. I felt very uneasy the first time I have a baby, and I have these people that treated me like dirt all my life in my room, smiling in my face, and, you know, so, but I sucked it in because I knew that on my side, I could make it work. Like, I could learn to accept what had happened in the past, move on, forgive, not forget, but forgive and move on. Well, while in my birthing room, she's telling me what I'm doing wrong, how to be a mom, and granted, I've been taking care of special needs children for years. Special needs children. So if anyone knew how to take care of a baby, by all means, it was me. But I ignored it. I said, this is just her, you know, trying to give me advice, blah, blah, blah. So, first year, they're in our life, very first year. My son was just 1 year old, was when it all begun again. I had got sexually assaulted by the maintenance man. I was going through a hard time, and Sarah, my mother-in-law, suggested that I should go and get counseling. So she said, hey, you know, twice a week, if you want to go to counseling, I'll watch Bryce for you, and you can go to counseling and help yourself. And I said, great. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this woman is like really there for me. Like, when I needed her, oh my God, it's really coming true. I have my mother-in-law that I've always wanted. She's not the same old person. I just was so thrilled. Well, what do you think she was doing in the background? She was pulling my husband aside, telling my husband that if he didn't think he could be there for me while I was going through this sexual assault, that he shouldn't feel bad for wanting a divorce from me, and that she was more than happy to help him get out of the marriage financially. My husband came home in tears, telling me what his mother said. I could not believe it. I was like, I know I might be acting a little erratic, but I just got freaking sexually assaulted. Like, I need my husband, I need my family to gather around me, hold me, hug me, tell me everything will be okay. But no. My son was 1 year old. It took her not even a year back in our life to tell my husband to divorce me. Because all before, she kept saying break up. And she even sent my husband to counseling 2 or 3 separate times, saying there was something wrong with him for dating me. So he had to go see a psychiatrist and be put on medication because she said there was something psychologically wrong with him for wanting to be with me and not listening to his parents not to break up with me. So like every few months before we were married, she was constantly, oh, break up, we're going to disown you. They disowned him several times, and they come back. Just like stupid stuff. So it took her a year. Well, there goes, that happened. I ignored it because my husband said, don't bring it up. I want to be able to tell you these things and just keep your guard up. So I kept my guard up, and she somehow tricked us into moving like 20 minutes away from her. We lived in Ohio. Somehow she tricked us to move back into Texas. And while I was there, she kept showing up to my house without calling. Matter of fact, one morning, and this was nice, I got up and I walked outside, and all of my flower beds had been redone. Like, they came over in the morning without calling, without telling me, without anything, redid my whole entire front yard. It was nice. It was good looking, but they didn't have my permission. I guess because it wasn't good enough in meeting their standards, they thought they'd go in and meet the standards of, what they thought was nice. I just sucked it in. I said, well, that was really nice. I thought it was nice of them to do that, but I had wished they had asked me. Well, then she started showing up to my house, uninvited. So the third time she came, but this time she came with her husband. They came with a pizza, and they rang the doorbell, and I opened the door about this big, and I said yes, and they said, oh, we thought we'd surprise you with a pizza. So Costco to my house is a 20-minute drive, and then about a 30-minute drive from their house. So they had about an hour to call me and ask me if I wanted a pizza and if they could come over and bring pizza. But did they? No, they didn't. They kept trying to come over to my house to like catch me doing something, or to see if I was being a mother of their standards, or seeing if the house was clean. Because if the house wasn't, like, she rearranged my furniture and all kinds of stuff, telling me my house wasn't clean and cleaning for me and all this other stuff. And so they came over with the pizza, and I looked at Sarah and I said, Sarah, I asked you 3 separate times to call me before coming over to my house, and you didn't. Jan, the husband, my father-in-law, grabbed the door trying to pry it open, and I was in front of it. I took the door, and I said, get the fuck out of my house, and I shut the door. I had never spoke to his parents like that before. But I had it up to here with them coming to my house uninvited, not calling, like just doing stuff that is like crossing boundaries by leaps. You know, like, not only was I pissed off that she had told my husband to divorce me when I needed him the most after being sexually assaulted, but now she's showing up to my house with her husband. She did that on purpose. She did that so I would get mad. And see, this is how narcissists work. They'll bring other people in the mix to say, see, I told you. She's like that. I told you. Not knowing the back history of me telling her not to come to my house without calling first. Calling me first. You live 20 minutes away. Even if you're around the corner, you can call me and ask if you can come over. No. She never did that. Said she brings her husband over because she knew it was going to piss me off. And a show went down. After that, what do you think happened? Oh, Jared, Natalie is unstable. Natalie, you know, why would you want to live with her? And we'll get Bryce. You don't worry about Bryce. You can come my husband was working out of town and flying in on the week every 2 weeks to see us. So I was alone all the time. And so really his parents were the only people that I did have in my life, and I did rely a lot on them. I thought we were building that relationship back up, but all to my demise, she was behind my back telling my husband to divorce me. So here it goes, the divorce thing again, telling him to divorce me, and she'll pay for it, and then smile on my face and act like nothing took place, like she never told my husband. My husband is my best friend. He tells me everything. So it happened 2 more times, and I'll go into more stories. This is 22 minutes long. I don't know if anyone even cares about this video, but I'm gonna put it on here, and I don't care if anyone sees it or not. It just kind of is venting. But she's told my husband 2 more times, actually 3 more times, well, we just kicked her out of her life a year ago. So in 4 years, she's told my husband about 5 times to divorce me behind my back, then gets in my face and acts like she's never said or did any of that. And then when I confronted her the one time after being sexually assaulted, she said that the only reason why she told Jared that is because I was mentally unstable and she was scared for her son, or something along those lines. Like, just like so absurd. Like, I was sexually assaulted. I need my husband. How would she feel if somebody sexually, it didn't happen once, but 3 times in the same instance, when the maintenance happened to me 3 times, and there was nothing I could do, and I had a 1-year-old child in the house, and I was scared shitless. How would she feel if that happened to her? Her husband was out of town. The maintenance man sexually assaulted her 3 times in 1 visit, and then all of a sudden her mother-in-law and other family members were telling her husband to divorce her because she got sexually assaulted. It's just like these people have no heart. Like, they literally, mentally cannot relate to any situation that anyone is going through. They only care about what their agenda is. They have an agenda. That agenda is going to be met. And if it doesn't get met, it's because you go no contact with them. But really what blew all this out of the water again is, like, I'll tell you one more short little story and then I'm going to end it because I don't know if anyone's even going to watch this, but if I get views, I'll tell you more stories because it just goes on forever. So we were living in New York at this time, about a year ago, and Oh, my little baby bear is barking and want me to let her in. So anyway, they came down to Thanksgiving, and we had some cousins that we lived by in Connecticut, which is about an hour away. So they came down. I was very hospitable. I made this huge cheese tray with all these olives and pickles and meats, and just I spent like $150 on this stupid cheese tray, but it was a hit. They loved it. Well, what does she do when she comes over? She's acting rude to me. This is what a lot of times this is what she always did. I'd talk to her and she would act like she didn't hear me. She did it all the time. I like, hey Sarah, blah 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 blah. And so I just sit there, and it's almost like she did it to embarrass me, and because I would feel embarrassed after, because I'd be like, okay, like I guess I'm not worth speaking to. But really what blew a lot of this out of the water when I knew I was done, not only did my husband and I get in, like, the 20 years we're together, we may have gotten, like, 8 big fights in our whole, like, time together. Gotten a big fight in December or whatever. But before that in November, so she's down visiting for Thanksgiving. Well, we go to a pizza parlor. We meet the cousins at the pizza parlor. I'm from Texas. I don't know about pizza. Matter of fact, I'm on a keto diet. I don't even eat pizza. I don't eat bread. I was only curious. So we're all at the table talking about the menu. A whole crap load of us. And of course, I get seated down by the children, and I'm not anywhere in the midst of the actual adult conversation. So I kind of have to talk a little bit louder to people. And so I asked one of the cousins, hey, Alex, what's this truffle? What is a truffle on a pizza? And he tells me, and so I'm looking, I mean, it's just like all these incredible pizzas. And I'm like, oh, what's this? So I asked, hey, Alex, what's this? Kid you not. So I'm sitting down at by the kids. She goes, Sarah, my mother-in-law goes, looks down like this, down at the kids' side where I'm sitting. She goes, excuse me, Natalie, why don't you let them, saying the adults, order whatever they would like, and, we'll just enjoy whatever they order. There's no need to holler through the table and talk about the menu, like, let them take care of it, just stay silent. The moment she said that, I just felt tears and emotions and just gut-wrenching hurting and embarrassment, and just, I was so embarrassed. She talked to me as though I wasn't part of the family, as though I was one of the children at the end of the table. It took everything in me not to cry, and you know why I didn't cry? Because I didn't want to embarrass her. Because I didn't really want everybody at that table to really know how I feel when she talks to me like that. I was protecting her while she was abusing me. That's how manipulation and conniving and just the detriment of her controlling and her narcissism had gotten into me. That I had known better to cry, to show my emotions, that she had hurt me in front of all those people, because I didn't want anyone to know that that was the type of person she is, and that she did that to me all the time. Isn't that crazy? I still can't believe some of the things I've been through. Now, next video I'll go into why we actually went no contact when it's been like that for 13 months. And I ain't going back. She ain't getting back in my life. I've been so happy, relieved. I can be myself in front of people. I can be me, Natalie. I can have the heart of gold and not be ridiculed or embarrassed by it, and taking care of my handicapped dog or my handicapped children and never being appreciated for it. Like, no one ever, like, they never talked about my business of taking care of handicapped children, never being acknowledged, never saying, Natalie, what a great thing you're doing. I always just kept it to myself, even though in my heart I knew it was a good thing. Even though they wouldn't recognize it. I didn't need them to tell me. I knew already. because of the person that I am. The person that my parents raised me to be. The loving, caring, kind person. I have a handicapped dog that she's been telling, he's 8 years old and has survived for 8 years. He has a congenital spine defect. Here he is, right here. His name's Henry. Say hi, Henry. He's my little buddy. Your sock fell off again, buddy. She tells me all the time to kill that dog because it makes me look like a good person, and other family members and friends, I guess, will boast about, oh, Natalie is taking care of that dog. She's doing such a good job. Because I started a Facebook thing like a few years ago for him, and since then he's gotten over 5,000 friends, and I educate people on how just because your dog got hit by a car or is born deformed or has an injury doesn't mean that you have to euthanize it, that there's other ways of taking care of animals. It's just alternative ways, and I teach people that, and I get messages every day, people saying, hey, I just had a litter of puppies. This is going on with that dog. How do I take care of it? I don't want to put it down. And so I educate people. Well, other people know this in our family and friend circle, and I guess they boast about it, or maybe might say something to her about it, and so she'll never bring it to my attention. Instead, she tells me to kill my dog. So she tells me, oh, that dog is suffering. Oh, that dog, it needs to be put down. He's 8, and I've been doing a damn good job taking care of this dog. You can find Henry's Facebook if you want. It's Henry Pavlicek. I'll spell it HenryPavlicek. That's V as in Victor, not a B. Pavlicek. If you want to learn about handicapped animals or want to be part of a dog group, if I know a lot of people out there want to talk about their dogs, like diets. I've made prosthetics for Henry for many years. It's DIY type thing that I've done. I've experimented. So I know, so if anyone ever needs help with dogs, diapers, anything, I also can help people get wheelchairs, prosthetics for their dog, sometimes free of charge, depending on the charity. I've gotten them in the past. So if you're looking for an outlet to talk about your dog, if you're in a loving relationship with your animals and you're just there wanting to talk to people about your animals, please come on that Henry's Facebook. We'd love to have you as a friend. If there's too many friends and you cannot send a request, you can message me, or you could also follow. I always respond to everybody, even though it's a part-time job. It's not like I get paid for it, but I do it because I love doing it, and I like helping people, and I like teaching people that just because your dog's injured or whatever doesn't mean you have to euthanize them. There's other ways of taking care of them. So anyways, that's a little off subject of why I'm posting this. It's already 30 minutes long, so I better stop. But peace, love, harmony, and maybe if I get enough views, I can really go into some more, and I can also tell you how to be a professional at not being a magnet for narcissism in general in the population. Because if you're an empath like I am, dude, narcissists love you because you're kind, sweet, and they just suck it up, and the next thing you know, they suck you dry. So, bye guys. Love ya, and may God be with ya. Bye-bye.